Hi everyone, welcome to Divine Yoga for Women, Beautiful Women series. So we are in episode 35 and today's guest is going to be Catherine from Canada. So I'm so much excited to talk to Catherine. So let's welcome Catherine from, I think she is online and she will be joining in a few minutes. Hi everyone, thanks for joining. Hi. Hi. Hi,
Hello.
Catherine. Hello.
Hi, Saranya. How are you?
I'm good. It's so nice to see you. Thank you so much for accepting the invite and joining the series.
Thank you so much for having me. It's wonderful to be here, and thank you for all the work that you do in your community with women all over the world. I mean, it's incredible in spreading that
Thank
positivity and
you.
love. So,
Thank
thank
you
you.
so much. Thank you. So, Catherine, tell us about yourself. Like, I know about you a little bit, like what you do and all. So, you can tell about yourself to the audience out there.
Of course. Yeah, so I live in Canada. I was born in Bulgaria and I moved here when I was 9 and sort of started this life in the, American dream sort of thing. My parents moved with my sister and I, and, life took me on some adventures. I first became an accountant, a CPA, and was kind of in the corporate world for a while. But there was something inside of me that knew I wanted to make more of a personal difference in people's lives.
Uh-huh.
And I didn't know what quite yet. I really had no idea where, thinking back to it now, it becomes so obvious. But it was only about a year after I left the corporate world that I realized I can help women with a particular challenge that I faced myself in the realm of sexuality. And that was painful sex. And for me, it was quite the mystery for a while as to what I was experiencing while I was
Mm-hmm.
experiencing it. But later on in life, I found out that it was called vaginismus.
Mm-hmm.
And vaginismus is a body response in which the pelvic floor muscles around the vaginal opening, the anus, the urethra, they literally contract and they close up and they tighten, making penetration either impossible, where there's sort of like a wall there that nothing can go in, or just incredibly painful. And that's what I'm in this world now of sexuality and helping women overcome this body response, just like I did in my life.
Thank you. So, CA to Vaginismus expert. So,
Yes,
many of us don't know about like what is vaginismus. So, can this be treated, Catherine? Can this
absolutely.
be treated naturally? Yeah.
Yeah, and I like that you say naturally too, because there are some methods out there that are quite invasive. And one red flag I hear quite often is when somebody goes to a medical professional and they suggest surgery right off the bat, whether it's a hymen problem, which is often not the case really, and surgery is suggested. So definitely the treatment, it can be natural and it is a full body healing journey. That's the way that I like to
Mm-hmm.
call it. In fact, it's a mind, body, and soul, in my opinion, in the way that I see things. And it is a treatment that involves the mind because there is this psychological association that we develop very naturally. If we experience something painful, that area of our body is a source of pain, that it is bound to happen, that, my vagina is just painful. And so there's
Mm-hmm.
this psychological association, and which needs to be worked with, just like training for any sort of sport and creating that and I guess that endurance, that association that, hey, this is good, I'm getting this, or training a dog even. We're literally training our body mentally to associate penetration slowly but surely with a neutral sensation and later with pleasure. But physically, it's also treated in a few different ways where the basis really is for us to start to get awareness of our pelvic floor muscles and control of them so that we can relax them.
Very
So
true.
yeah, definitely for anyone listening out there, it is absolutely treatable. And this is what I just, if this is the only thing that people get from this conversation, it's that sense of hope that I'm really looking for.
So how do we identify like if we have vaginismus, Catherine? Because there is some concept here like we have to adjust the pain or we have to tolerate the pain. Otherwise, they sometimes say no pain, no gain here.
Yeah, great question. And I think that mentality is so common amongst women in general in the way that we have grown up in the world, generations and generations and generations. But also because I find that many of us who experience vaginismus are, in a sense, high performers. So in life, this is the way that we have survived in the past. No pain, no gain. Just push through, just a little bit more. One next step, like I want to achieve to be good enough. These are the sort of things that we have grown up with.
Very
And I
true.
really like talking about this because it's such a big picture. It's all intertwined, just like that. But to answer your question, how do we identify that we're experiencing this? Very often, a first red flag is when we try to wear tampons, but it doesn't work. And I know in certain cultures, tampons isn't really a thing out there. Sanitary napkins, pads are sort of the way to go. And so this may not be an experience for some people. But if you have tried to wear a tampon before and it wasn't going in or it was very painful, that could be one red flag of identifying that, okay, something is wrong. Another thing that can typically happen is a very, very painful pelvic exam as a first experience for women.
Okay.
So that might mean going to a gynecologist's office, medical professional of any sort, where you're trying to take a pelvic exam, but just like was the case for me, I was laying on that bed with those crinkly sheets in the doctor's office, and I was a little nervous. Also, my doctor was a male, and I think that contributed to my nervous system not feeling fully safe.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's a big one, just because we could have so much association to a male being either a potential source of embarrassment or shame or fear for us
Yeah,
personally.
very true.
And so in that pelvic exam, I was laying there and, I was telling myself to just relax, like a lot of medical professionals tell, unfortunately, just relax, which isn't very helpful. And what we notice is that our body kind of goes like this. It backs up. And in some cases, the legs can close automatically. That's sort of a sign. Or even your butt might lift up the table. My butt just literally lifted off the table trying to escape the speculum. And that can be quite a scary experience. It can be quite spooky for the nervous system, for the physical body, because it's as though you don't have control over yourself. And that really is what vaginismus is all about, is this sense of feeling that we don't have a control over our body.
Body. Okay.
So whether in that pelvic exam, the speculum can't even go near you because there's a sense of anxiety forming, or you do attempt it, but it just feels like it's a knife stabbing your insides. Your pelvic floor feels like it might be on fire or being stabbed. Those are the telltale signs that you may be experiencing vaginismus.
Okay, okay. Catherine, like whom do we reach professionally for consulting this vaginismus problem? Like, as you said, we have that fear, we have that hesitation to go to doctors, gynecologists, male. Okay, so whom do we reach out to professionally for the first consultation? Like, if we have some kind of fear.
Great question. That answer can vary, but I'll tell you a few different options. So one is a pelvic floor physiotherapist. This,
Physiotherapist.
yes, so this is the most relevant medical professional, in my opinion, for vaginismus because they are aware of this body response more often than any other medical professional that I've come across.
Okay.
And they are specialized in this. However, you also want to sort of do your homework in that way. So you may find that if you go to a pelvic floor physiotherapist and you start sharing about what you're experiencing, but they don't quite seem to be able to put a label on it of vaginismus, or they don't quite understand, or they just prescribe some lube, or anxiety medication, or that kind of thing, like a band-aid solution, that might just simply mean that they're not aware. And unfortunately, not everybody is. And the education that we get in, well, I won't speak for myself, but that is given for medical professionals doesn't include a whole lot on vaginismus from what it seems like. So the most relevant for one person could be a gynecologist, for example. That could also be another medical professional to visit. Other than that, I really invite people to get active in a community online, because this may be a perfect first step before heading over to physically seeing somebody. And it'll help people gain comfort in the experience, some confidence, and also know that they're not alone in the first place, because that is often a source of fear for us, that we're literally the only person experiencing this body response in the entire world. That's how I felt, at least, because there was so little information available out there.
Very true. So, do we have any lifestyle changes for this vaginismus problem, like that you would suggest some exercises or anything? Like you said, physiotherapist, no, so that's why I'm asking this question to you.
Yes, absolutely. So lifestyle changes are very key. Just like we said, it's a full body healing experience. And so definitely the way that we live our life needs to change in some way in order to help the nervous system down regulate and come to a place where the physical relaxation also becomes possible. So, for one, gaining awareness and control of our pelvic floor muscles is the foundation of then being able to consciously relax them at our will, where we're sending that signal to the body to relax. And so, a lifestyle change that comes with that is starting to breathe into our belly as the very first step in those pelvic floor relaxation exercises that I'm talking about. And the reason this is important is because when we breathe deeply into our belly, what happens is that our diaphragm starts to contract downwards, which actually gently stretches the pelvic floor muscles downwards also. And this creates a very natural beginning of the movement that we really are looking for in the pelvic floor. While for people who might be experiencing vaginismus, the pelvic floor unfortunately sits in this perpetual contracted state, and we're looking for the full range of movement. So belly breathing is one of the first steps. And stemming from that, reverse Kegel exercises are also incredibly helpful in starting to get that conscious awareness of the pelvic floor as well as the movement. Other things that could be incredible are yoga, meditation, stretching exercises, and mindfulness practices that help us get that relationship with ourselves as a physical body, because so many of us have sort of disconnected from that part. Even though it's right here, right? Like we're walking along with it every step of the way. So often there's this distance from the mind to the rest of the body, to the heart, let's say, which is only a 30-centimeter jump. But there,
Catherine, I personally, I never expected that you would talk about yoga in this treating vaginismus. No, I didn't expect really.
yeah, I find that sometimes we feel like vaginismus is only a purely medical thing where we need to stretch the pelvic floor and massage the pelvic floor, et cetera, et cetera. But really, yoga is such a huge piece of it. And the way that I see yoga, and I would love to hear how you perceive yoga also, is it's not just the physical movement, right? It is Kriya Yoga, for example. It is spinal breathing. It is activating the entire system and beyond,
Beyond.
not just here in the physical, what we can see. How is it that you see yoga in your life?
Yeah, yoga definitely it helps vaginismus because we suggest stretches, a lot of exercises, asanas for the pelvic region. So we also suggest for people coming and telling this vaginismus problem. And I was so happy to hear it from you again. So along with meditation, as you said, it's also a mind-related thing. Like we have to, um, it's related to mind and body connection, right? To this vaginismus problem. So I think yoga is the best solution for that.
Absolutely. It really is foundational. And yoga is a foundational part of getting that mind-body connection. Certain other things then become relevant once that sort of relationship becomes healthier. And that relationship with the body, we can talk about in the mind, body, spirit connection. And also specifically, it's important to talk about the relationship we have to our vulva and to our vagina. And
Very true.
as women, there can be a lot of shame associated to this part of our body. And that is the case for men, for penis owners also. And there's some significant differences, even in the way that our body is physically built. And I've written about this topic on my website, and I talk about how our clitoris, our vagina, is literally hidden. The clitoris is in front, just like the penis is, really, but they are hidden between our legs where they're not visible. And so it becomes an actual intentional exploration for us to look down there and be like, oh, what's that? While for a man, going to the washroom when they were little, there was this tactile connection already, this holding of the penis while you go pee. So the relationship started to be built when they were very, very little boys. And for women, that was simply not the case. So, we might think, what is wrong with me? Why is it that I don't have this connection with my body, et cetera, et cetera? But even the physical anatomy gives some sort of explanation as to why it has been harder for us to get to that space.
Very true, very true. So, how can we reach you for this vaginismus problem, Catherine? Like, are you providing any online consultations now?
Yes, I am. That really was something that I wish I had in my journey of finding answers. And so I provide complimentary one-on-one consultations that are 45
Wow,
minutes long. And so much healing can come out of these, so many answers that are customized to people's lives. And of course, some people decide to continue working with me down the line. That's an option. I have online guidance to help people that is all video, step by step. It includes the emotional aspect of the journey, which is incredibly important, as well as the physical, and also the exploration of safety in the body, pleasure in the body, which is the other third pillar that I find isn't talked about often enough. But for people to reach me over on my Instagram, which I'm sure will be linked here, it's pain-free and intimate, or on my website, katrinwithlove.com. And there's plenty of guidance there that's available for people.
that's very nice. So, Catherine, like this vaginismus problem is it like unique for each and every body, or the treatment I'm asking about? Is it
Great
different for each?
question. So there are definitely unique aspects to it in the way that our body takes and sort of creates that relationship. It could be unique in terms of timing, and sometimes it's unique in terms of approach. Yet there are main pillars here that I have found have been universal for people. And those are really the emotional healing journey that we start with. Then it's rekindling intimate connection to ourselves and getting back in touch with feeling pleasure in other parts of our body, perhaps even getting our sex drive back, because that's a huge aspect. Lots of us lose that desire for any sexual touch, any intimate touch in the first place because it has been a source of pain before.
Very true, very true, very true.
Yeah, that's a whole other exploration, healing journey in itself. So emotional journey, rekindling intimate connection, then moving into the physical aspects of things. So pelvic floor relaxation exercises, dilating, and of course the community. That's also huge. And I include that as its own pillar because we need to start to feel like we're not the only ones going through this in order for healing to be possible, in my opinion. So those pillars, and within dilating, we haven't really touched on that, but there are tools that I'd say maybe 90% of people who experience vaginismus benefit from in their journey. but they are
Mm-hmm.
not the be all and end all of things.
Mm.
And the internet suggests that if you have vaginismus, you need to buy these plastic set of dilators and just shove them in there and stretch the muscles. But that's not what we want to do right away, at least, because in my experience, I was continuously causing myself pain, first of all, and just deepening that cycle that existed in the first place. So we need to get out of the cycle first and then use dilators along with pleasure to create that positive relationship to penetration.
The word pleasure and love is actually, I think it's more important. So, Catherine, does this vaginismus affect normal delivery?
Great
Many of
question.
us have this question here.
Great question. And on that, I have talked to so many women with that question because really, for some people, the priority is with their partner is to create that loving family. And
Mm-hmm.
maybe the priority, and that's perfect, there's no right answer here. The priority might be, okay, I want to have a baby, and then I can overcome vaginismus later on. That's also something that is absolutely possible
Possible.
because vaginal delivery, when it comes from the inside out, works in a completely different way than what the outside in experience is like. So
Yeah.
the body, there's such innate wisdom in the body, and we start to learn this in the healing journey of vaginismus. When we come to that place of self-love, the physical relaxation, that innate wisdom is beautiful in the way that vaginal delivery can work even when you are experiencing vaginismus, because it just the vaginal canal can start to open up, stretch, the cervix dilates, et cetera, and the baby can move out of the body where the pelvic floor muscles know what's happening and know that it's a natural part of life. And the fear is not part of the equation because this inner system takes over. And I have actually personally had cases where people have given vaginal delivery with a vaginismus still being in their life, whether to the same degree as before or a little bit less.
Wow, very beautiful, and it's so interesting to learn the anatomy and to learn this very important part of our body. It's very interesting, Catherine.
Thank you. It really is so interesting. And I also like that you're noticing that about the process because we really realize how beautiful what the body is really capable of. And what makes me most fulfilled in this work, and I believe I'll be doing this for my entire life, is partially, seeing people feel that pleasure without limitation in their body. Having couples be able to experience that together, relationships being able to thrive in life in this way, because sex is a large part of intimate connection. But what makes me most happy is when my clients come back to me one day and say, Katrin, I'm pregnant. And most recently, somebody gave birth. And that just warms my heart like no other. One time I had two pregnancy announcements in the same day.
So,
And
how
it's
do you
just
feel, Catherine, when
amazing.
somebody says, it's amazing, right? Even I have had this experience when they say after your yoga sessions, um, I got pregnant. If they say, I feel like flying, if as if I got pregnant.
Yeah, it's incredible, isn't it?
Yeah,
It's literally helping in some way, shape, or form to create life.
life, the
Yeah.
most beautiful thing.
Absolutely. And that's why I can totally understand when people say, Katrin, I just want to conceive. And some people might look down on that as to, well, no, you have a problem. You need to fix that first. And I really don't think there's a right answer. And sometimes going for that sense of unconditional happiness with knowing you're pregnant may be the thing that gives you the motivation to keep going forward and to create the physical relaxation after the fact.
So many of our students for attending this yoga sessions now, they come and ask about, they tell and discuss about this problem, vaginismus. And that's the reason I wanted you to come, and I wanted you to talk about that. And you explained everything very beautifully. Like, I did not expect like you will talk about yoga and all. So thank you so much for that.
You're very welcome, of course.
So, what is the one thing that you think like you are strong about? Like,
The, in how I help people or overall in life.
wow, that's so nice. So, how do you manage time, Catherine? Like, you do a lot of consultations. Like, how do you manage your family and work?
Great question. I I feel like I've come to a place of recognizing the importance of rest. And that is also very relevant to the vaginismus journey because we often find that we need to be productive, we need to do this next thing, we need to, whatever it might be in our lives, whether it's work related or taking care of the home, the partner, the family. So, how do I manage? I make sure I take rest times
Rest.
because
So
rest is
that's,
incredibly productive.
we keep on telling this like women, they should take that rest and they should have their me time in their life, like daily, at least half an hour or half an hour to 1 hour. They should have that me time, and they can do whatever they like in that time.
Yeah, I love that. That gives us the opportunity to reset.
Yes.
And one thing that I've explored in the last while, in the last half a year, really is this. It's actually incredible process of helping us release tension and trauma from the physical body. And what I found is, naturally we store so much emotion, especially in the musculature, but also the fascia, and specifically the psoas muscle, right, that connects the femur bone, the hip bones to the lower spine. And that emotion is there for us and is stored. It literally may have been stored for 20 years of something that has happened in our childhood. And just as the psoas muscle might store this emotion, the pelvic floor muscles might store this emotion. And I wonder if you've ever seen somebody burst into tears from a stretch. Have you seen that before in yoga classes, for example?
Yes, yes, I have seen.
Yeah, and it's an incredible experience, right? And this happened to me personally through massage and later through the same technique that I want to tell you about. Because the body, when it's ready to release, it releases, and physical relaxation can be incredible from that. But the way that I've learned how to guide people through this is through activating muscle tremoring, neurogenic muscle tremors. And in nature, this is a very common occurrence. It's a natural occurrence for animals after a traumatic experience in which maybe they needed to survive, they needed to either fight, flight, or freeze, where vaginismus is the freeze response. They literally lay down and their body starts to automatically shake.
Shake.
And it's releasing the stress hormones, and it's releasing anything that may have been otherwise stored in the body. And the creator of this practice, his name is Dr. David Berzelli. He was working in war zones, and he was noticing how upon each explosion, each person in the community, they would go like this. They would contract because of the fear response. It's a very automatic thing. But later, during the day in between bombings, the kids would be on the street or at home, and they would be kind of shaking. They would be releasing this and allowing their body to go through the natural process of releasing this stress that's been stored. While the adults, they weren't shaking. And he asked them, well, why aren't you, why are your kids shaking, but you're not? And they said, well, we want to feel, we want to look strong for the kids. We don't want to show them that we're scared. And that is why we don't allow ourselves to release. We don't allow this human process to take place. So activating that at will that tremoring process, especially because it starts in the pelvic floor, it starts in the legs. The legs start to shake a little bit. My clients say it feels like airplane turbulence.
Mm-hmm.
That can be an emotional release. It can look like a whole lot of tears. That could simply be a physical release, and it feels incredible after. And in my opinion, it's a fantastic access point to contribute to our practice so that we can be releasing that tension from the inside out, as
Mm-hmm.
opposed to physically manipulating it from the outside through a massage practice, for example.
Mm-hmm.
So it looks a little bit like an exorcism sometimes. Or, you might say in the Kriyas, if you could feel this energy flow and literally have your body be out of control.
Absolutely.
It's a very similar look. And in my opinion, it's very much of the same physical process anyways. It's just labeled differently. One is more so a yoga context, and another is more so what is called tension and trauma releasing exercises.
So that is there. We have kriyas, we have core strengthening exercises, everything when it comes to vaginismus. Yeah, very true.
Mm-hmm.
So the what would be few tips that you would give to any woman for avoiding vaginismus?
Great question. I love that. I love that you're thinking about preventative also, because the goal is for us to create a community in the world that doesn't even have this problem to begin with. If that could be my impact in one way, shape, or form, like a little bit in life, I would be so happy, because the next generation is just going to follow in our footsteps and experience vaginismus unless something changes. So, if people haven't yet tried penetration using a tampon, with a sex toy, a finger, a penis, whatever it might be, one tip is to start that exploration in ourselves. And I know that our education system is flawed in many ways, where we are taught, if we're taught anything at all, is we're taught to be fearful of what might be going on between our legs, whether that is fear out of period symptoms, PMS, the pain,
Pain.
whether that's fear out of pregnancy, whether that's fear of medical exams or STDs. It's just fear, 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 fear. And obviously, we don't know that it is a beautiful part of life to begin with, because we're never taught that. So,
Very true.
exploring pleasure in our body, starting with something as simple as taking that 30 minutes, like you mentioned, and just being present. Maybe even taking one of our hands and taking the other one and just giving ourselves a soft touch and noticing, hey, what does that feel like? Have I allowed myself to feel pleasure from my own skin before? And I know that I hadn't. I mean, I was always on the go. So that was one layer of myself that I hadn't explored. But even further, my vulva, my vagina, exploring my clitoris. That to me, and I had this memory surface through one of my emotional healing practices that I share with people. I had a memory surface to explain, why is it that I never experienced self-pleasure free of shame? It was my grandpa making a comment when I was 6 or 7 years old, when I had just discovered my clitoris. And otherwise, I love my grandpa, respect him very much. Everything is fantastic in our relationship. But when that memory surfaced in meditation, actually, I remembered that he looked at me and he said, Katrin, don't touch there. When I was playing with my toys,
Very
but I was
true.
also playing with my clitoris, because I had just discovered this pleasure piece on my body. Like, hey, this feels great. And when he said that, that registered in my nervous system as how the world is, how the world is, as an absolute rule of don't touch that, that it's not allowed. It's not allowed in public,
It's
but
our
likely it's
own
also,
body.
yeah, right? And we feel like it's not. We feel like it's not okay. It's a place of shame. It is maybe only accessible to our partners. And that is a whole other depth, that our vulva, our vagina belongs to our partner. and he or she is allowed to do with it what they want, but we're not. So that can go really deep as well. So, one tip is to start exploring, and slowly with each experience, we create that okayness, that
Comfort.
sense of pleasure, the comfort, yeah. And really, at the end of it all, it comes down to self-love.
Very beautiful.
I tell people, I help you overcome vaginismus, but in order to do that, I need to help you get to a place of self-love and acceptance. And overcoming vaginismus is a byproduct of that. But the journey to self-love is what it's all about in the first place. Vaginismus just flows naturally. Overcoming vaginismus flows naturally through that. And I think that's the most beautiful part.
Well said, Catherine. I just love that last part about self-love. I just loved. So, what would be one thing that you would like to tell for all the women out there here?
I want to tell them that they are perfect, and that it is those untruths that we believe about ourselves that have us feel that we're not. You're not broken. There's nothing wrong with you. I know that I believed that for a very long time, and it was only through the shift realizing, okay, I can do this. I'm perfect already, and I want to physically relax so that I can enjoy sex, as opposed to my body sucks, I hate my body, and so I need to fix it. I need to get somewhere. We need to realize that we are already beautiful, we're already perfect, we're already whole, and we deserve love from this place that we are right now, because now is everything that exists. There's nothing else. There's no past or no future. And only from there can we make progress and heal. So yeah, you're not alone if you're listening. There's so much hope. This is only a stage of life, and people can get past this stage and create exactly what they desire. Fantastic sex life, no limitations, beautiful experience in their marriage, and having a big happy family with as many kids as they would like.
That was really awesome, Catherine. It's nice to talk to you and discuss more about this problem. And I would like to bring awareness about this problem, and at least even it would be helpful for at least one woman, no?
Yes, yeah. Thank you so much for having me on, and for creating this conversation, and for your passion in the very same thing that, so many of us around the world are putting effort into creating this space of self-love, community, understanding, and coming back
So
to
much positivity.
ourselves.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Catherine. Thank you for joining the series and being an inspiration for many women. I'll definitely recommend many women to consult Catherine if you have a vaginismus problem. I'm definitely going to save this live and tag her Instagram ID so that every woman can reach out to you, Catherine, if you have that problem. Thank you so
Yeah.
much for joining the series.
You're very, very welcome. Have a great rest of your evening. It's morning for us, so the day is
Yeah,
just starting here.
you're beautiful in and out. Thank you so much, Catherine. Take
Thank
care.
you, and you are
Bye
as
bye.
well. Okay,
Bye bye.
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 Have a good night.
Bye bye.